Morning all, and welcome to the first ever video from the Humble Nomad Automotive YouTube channel. If you've got this far, you've probably got an interest in kit and prototype cars and building kit and prototype cars, which is handy because that's what we do on this channel. I'm saying this is the first video. I've actually been recording, it's January 2026, and I've actually recorded 2 or 3 videos out in the workshop, which I'll show you in a moment. But I thought that perhaps we should launch them all together, 2 or 3 at a time, this one being the first one, so that you've got an idea what the channel's all about. So, yes, I've got an interest in kit and prototype cars. Why, you might ask? Well, I don't have a general interest in kit cars. Well, I do have a general interest in kit cars, but I'm not interested in building a Lotus 7-esque replica or an AC Cobra, not at this particular juncture at least. I want to build cars that are unique, that you can't go into a large manufacturer's showroom and buy off a showroom floor, brand new or second-hand for that matter. So the cars that I'm interested in and the ones I've got to show you today, there's an MEV Exocet in the workshop behind me, which I'll take you out and show you in a minute. All I've done to that car so far is strip down the donor, MX-5. There's a story in itself there with MX-5s. I ended up with 2, but more of that in a moment. I've stripped it down and started to rebuild it, so the continuity of the videos is not great, because when you see it, it'll have some bits bolted on that I did last week and the week before, and videos on bolting those bits on will come out after this one, if you see what I mean. You're going to have to bear with me. YouTube and recording videos is not something I've ever done before, so hopefully we'll get better as we go along. Maybe we won't, and it'll just be shocking from the beginning. And to the end. But I do watch an awful lot of YouTube myself, I have to say, people doing a similar sort of thing. And I can forgive them their lack of production quality because of the content. So I hope you'll do the same. The whole approach to this channel is hands-on. So I'm interested in getting involved, building cars. It's not something I understand at all. I've pulled a few motorbikes apart over the years and tinkered with and fixed my own brake pads and that sort of thing, but I'm by no means an expert. But the plan is to build cars and go motor racing. And ultimately, I'd like to build cars, go motor racing, and be invited to race at Le Mans, which you might think is phenomenally far-fetched for a bloke with a load of spanners in his own garage. And you'd be right. However, I figure that that's a 10-year plan. So 10 years is something like 8 hours a day. What's that? 10, 20,000 hours of experience. I don't have 10 or 20,000 hours of experience yet, but I will have in 10 years' time. So if you're in for the long haul, you might see us get to Le Mans one day. And if we don't get that far, we'll just have a hell of a good time on the way. So I've got two separate venues, other than sitting here at my desk doing the research for the bits and the parts that I need. I've got a workshop behind me and a small lockup, not a million miles away. I'm based here in the middle of the North York Moors. It's snowing today, although a lot of the road, it's lunchtime and just late morning lunchtime, and the grit has just been through, so there's a good chance I might get out of the village today. But what I'm planning to do on this inaugural video is to show you the workshop and the Exocet, which is based here, and what I'm planning to do with that. And it really is a ground-up build based on a donor MX-5. And then I'm going to take you to the little lockup that I've got, little industrial lockup, which I call a factory to differentiate between the workshop and the factory. And down there is a car called the V2. In fact, you can probably, if I close down what I've got going on my screen here, there's a picture of it as a screensaver. So having bought the Exocet kit car from a car designer called Chris Greville-Smith at ex-Jaguar Land Rover. The guy's retired now, actually. He had not only a kit car for sale, but the whole concept for sale. The kit, the car, the jigs, the mould, the intellectual property. So I bought that as well. And we're not talking mega bucks here. The whole kit and concept I bought from Chris, which, by the way, came with 2 fully built cars and a model sort of sample chassis, jigs and moulds and so on, cost me less than the price of a family saloon. I can't tell you how much because that wouldn't be the done thing, but not a huge amount of money. And the Exocet kit car that's in the workshop here is advertised as the cheapest kit you can buy in the UK. So collectively, across the two projects, if you like, I haven't spent a fortune on what, you know, lots of people might spend more on an AC Cobra kit, for example, and end up with one car at the end of it. But the reason I've bought those two kits and got involved on those two projects is that both of them, both the Exocet and the V2, soon to be relaunched the Humble Nomad 1, but more of that in other videos. They're both unique. You won't have seen these before. You might have seen an MEV Exocet, but they're few and far between, and they're not a copy or a replica of any car that's come before. Similar, neither is this. This was designed by an ex-Jaguar Land Rover car designer. He's worked there man and boy. He's also got racing pedigree and so on and so forth. So it's a bespoke car designed from the ground up, and that's what interests me. And the reason that interests me is because to go to Le Mans eventually, 10 years from now, all being well, the 24 hours of Le Mans, they race prototypes. Now, it might well be that we go, I don't know, if we're lucky enough to get to the Le Mans Classic and take a classic sports car that is, again, part of the journey and we're learning, which is easier to get to, I would imagine, than racing in amongst the hypercars at Le Mans, then that might be a step in the right direction. But before we can do any of that, we need to learn to build cars, learn how to fabricate them, learn what parts are involved, learn where the suppliers are based, where do we get the information from, how do we put them together. So if you're in for that sort of journey, you're in the right place. So without further ado, let me take you outside. I'll show you the workshop that's here at my home in the middle of the North York Moors, and then from there on to the factory, and I'll show you the two projects and the difference. Right, so here we are. This is the MEV Exocet. As you can see, I've already started to assemble the front suspension as we go down the side here. Again, I've started to assemble the rear hubs and suspension at the back. All I've done other than the front and rear subframes and started on the suspension, for which there are videos which I will post at the same time as or shortly after this one. All I've done is given the chassis a lick of paint. And the reason I've given it a lick of paint is because with all the wool in the world, it is a damp, cold workshop. So I didn't want it to rust over the winter. And I think from what I've learned and what I am learning, that it's highly unlikely I won't want to or need to, what's the word? Well, weld, I suppose, or attach anything to the Exocet. I think I'm bound to want to do that. So if I'm going to be welding to the chassis and the frame, the last thing I want to do is to powder coat it at this particular juncture. So over the coming weeks and months, we'll assemble this car. That's the plan. It's based on, and all of this running gear, suspension and so on is based on an MX-5. I've got an MX-5 outside, which is currently my daily driver, and another one that's in this workshop in bits. That's the engine there from, it's a bit dark in this corner, so apologies, but you get the idea. That's a 1.8 variable valve timing Mazda MX-5 motor with about 70,000 miles on it, which is to go in here, in this vehicle. So it'll be a front engine, rear wheel drive, lightweight car. This car's actually got, as you can see, it's got a full-on roll chassis, roll cage rather, as part of the chassis. So it's the perfect vehicle to take track days. So I may not need to take this vehicle through its IVA. I've got a couple of kit cars down at the factory, which is where we'll go next, one of which is already IVA'd. So not sure yet, but I'm not entirely convinced that we would need to IVA this if we're going to take it and learn how to go motor racing. Right, let me pause you there for a moment and I will show you the storeroom, which is full of MX-5 parts. So as a consequence of dismantling an MX-5, not my daily driver, but a second one I bought, more of that in a minute, I've ended up with a room full of parts. So many of the parts of the MX-5 aren't needed, so a lot of them have gone off to be recycled and weighed in, but many of them are. So there is the suspension parts down here, there's throttle bodies, that's brake master cylinder, what else have we got? Pedal boxes, steering rack, alternator, there's some old brake discs there which I probably won't reuse. I've I've got 4 Space Saver wheels, which I managed to pick up on eBay for next to nothing, which I figured would be handy for rolling it round the workshop. I've also been able to acquire cheap on Facebook Marketplace things like this engine hoist, and if you follow me out here back into the light, see the light, follow me back into the light, there's this hydraulic press which I'm using at the moment to press bearings in for the suspension, all of which you'll see on future videos. I haven't paid much more than 100 quid a time for any of these second-hand tools, and I just pick them up as I go along, knowing that I'm going to need them on these types of projects. So that's pretty much it. It's not an enormous workshop, but it's big enough. There's a little storeroom for all my bits and bobs, and all of my tools are here. I would say not all of my tools, you'll see from the factory there's a few bits and bobs down there, but many of my tools that are required for assembling stuff, you know, spanners and other stuff like spanners, screwdrivers, are all here. So the vast majority of the assembly work, I guess, will take place here. And what I'm planning to do with the V2, soon to become the Humble Nomad 1, with the kit car concept that I bought from Chris at Jaguar Land Rover, what I'm planning to do with that, which is currently down at the what I'm calling the factory, is the first 2 jobs on that car, or the new prototype car, will be to build a chassis, much like this one. This one's come already with a ready-made chassis from MEV. So I need to build a chassis, I'll show you that when we go down there, and bodywork for it, which means that in that little factory down the road, what we'll do really is fabrication and composite style work. That's the plan, at least. All of that could change. And as it changes, you will be witness to it if you like and subscribe to these videos. Let's jump in the MX-5, my daily driver. I'll explain why I've got a daily driver MX-5 as well as one I took to bits, and then we'll nip down the factory and I'll show you more. Here is the beast that is the MX-5. This is currently my daily driver. Bought it sort of late spring a couple of years ago, thinking it would make a great donor for a kit car. I'd drive it all summer because it had a bit of MOT left on it. And then when it failed its MOT due to rust, like all MX-5s do, I would take it apart and use it as a donor. However, it keeps passing its MOT with no advisories. If I'm serious about learning how to fettle cars, I would keep it. The onus is on me to keep it going. Right, let's jump in the car, get down the factory. We're leaving now, the centre of the North York Moors. There's a beautiful dusting of snow everywhere, very picturesque. The sun's out today, it's glorious. And this is my daily driver. So as I said when I was stood outside, this is a 2002, might even be a 2003, early 2000 MX-5. It's just clicked over. I've been up and down to London in it on business, half a dozen times, dozen times maybe, in the 18 months to 2 years that I've owned it. And touch wood, it has never let me down. As I say, I've had to do bits and bobs of routine maintenance. It's had oil and filter changes, that sort of thing. But when they say, you know, an MX-5 is it's like a new roadster. Whoa, we're sideways. It's all right, we're off. We're still going. It's a little bit hairy when the back end breaks away, which it has a tendency to do in the snow and the ice. So anyway, let me tell you more about the 2 projects that we've started discussing back in the office and in the workshop. So as you gathered, I think I might have said mistakenly earlier that the Exocet was from Chris Greville-Smith. No, let me be clear. The Exocet is from a company called MEV in Wiltshire. They sell the MEV Exocet kit car, and all I've done with MEV in Wiltshire is to buy a kit like anybody can. So I went down there, spoke to them, told them what my intentions were. He sold me a kit and relieved me of the best part of 10 grand. And apparently that is one of the cheapest kits, or the cheapest kit in the UK. What do you get for your 10 grand? For my 10 grand, I got that frame you've just seen, all the body parts, which are tucked upstairs in the house in a bedroom, in a back bedroom, to basically two fiberglass body parts, a bright orange bonnet and a bright orange boot. The frame itself, what else do you get for your 10 grand? Not an awful lot. I mean, to be fair, the 10 grand was because I upgraded and bought things like a light kit. So I've got headlights and tail lights, came within that 10 grand. What else did I get? You get some sort of underfloor paneling in aluminium, which I've already screwed to the bottom. Screwed and glued, so tiger seal and self-tappers. The reason I tiger sealed and self-tapped the floor, self-tapped the floor, was because I might take it off eventually before it's powder coated and weld in a 1mm or 2mm steel floor. Anyway, we digress. So that's pretty much it. I bought some brake lines. They sell a brake line kit, I think it was a couple of £100, which is all part of the 10 grand, which were extras you didn't have to buy. You could have made your own brake lines. And I bought a wiring tray, which you might have seen behind me on the workshop floor. That's basically a folded up bit of aluminium, which I think I paid £80 for, which you coil up the existing wiring loom that came out the Donor MX-5, because you don't need most of it. So I probably shouldn't have bothered buying that tray, because I think what I'm going to do hopefully is to find a supplier, an auto electric supplier, which I've already done actually not far away from me here, to make me a bespoke slimmed down loom, because we need to learn how to handle things like telemetry ultimately, and engine management systems and wiring diagrams, whether that's for road or race cars. So that's the plan with the Exocet. Very different, and that was just a kit car that Joe Bloggs can buy, as I did. I was Joe Bloggs, went down there, bought the kit, parted with me 10 grand, and you've seen what you get, or virtually all you get for your money. Now, for more money than that, but not a huge amount, as I said, about the price of a family saloon, I bought an entire kit car concept from Chris Greville-Smith, who's the car designer from Jaguar Land Rover. The kit car he designed, and he's designed several other things as well, like race cars, but the kit car I've bought from him is just a sideline. It was just something, because he's a car designer, he can't help himself. So, but being a car designer, he only ever, having designed the kit, he only ever sold a handful of kits to the general public. For the price of a family saloon, I've ended up with an entire concept, which is 2 fully built kit cars, 1 yellow, 1 blue, 1 road legal, been through its IVA, which has a 2-litre turbocharged Ford EcoBoost engine in it, not a donor, it was out of a crate. And the blue one, that's the yellow one with the 2-litre engine, the blue one has a 1.6-litre Ford EcoBoost turbocharged motor in it. Both rear engine cars, phenomenally quick, ridiculously quick, because they weigh about 650, 700 kilos wet, i.e. with fuel and oil in them. Right, here we go, we've made it out onto the main road. So they're not very heavy. They're very well set up, because they've been designed by a car designer, and they're massively overpowered for the road. So the yellow one with a 2-litre turbocharged engine in it is the one I'm thinking of tracking, i.e. developing to use as a track monster. However, it is the one with the IVA currently. And the blue one, which is the smaller engined of the two, still a 1.6 turbo, doesn't hang about. Again with a crate engine from a company called Power Torque in it, who specialise in crate motors and ECUs. That car, which is not yet at this workshop, but on its way up from Kenilworth as we speak. I'll do a video showing you the transportation of that car from Kenilworth up here to North Yorkshire to the factory. It resides at the moment in Chris's workshop, which is a place he sublets from the Alvis Car Company, for those of you old enough to know who Alvis are. And when I go down to see him, I'm fascinated by the workshop next door, where there's these little elves with hammers tapping on aluminium, making the most beautiful bodywork you've ever seen. So he's a well-connected chap. Well, he would be, I suppose, after 40, 50 years in the automotive industry. There's not much he doesn't know, and there's not many people he doesn't know. So I was very lucky to find him. But the point of buying that car concept from Chris was that I own that outright now, so I could, in theory, well, in practice, there's no theory about it, design and build kit cars of my own and provide them to the general public for sale. However, I don't know anything about designing and building kit cars, although what I've inherited, well, purchased from Chris is drawings, moulds, intellectual property, a build guide, sample chassis, I mean, literally jigs and moulds. I mean, he couldn't have been more thorough. And if you put a qualified mechanic in a room with all the information he's given me, you would without doubt be able to build a car from scratch, which is what I'm hoping to do, even though I am, how shall we put it, less qualified. But what we might do is develop this car into the next model along. So, you know, maybe we'd choose a different engine for it, maybe we'd put an electric motor in it, maybe we'd get a donor Tesla for it, something of that nature. Or maybe not, maybe we just, in the first instance, build one exactly the same as the two I've already got, in order to learn how to build rear engine prototype cars, small volume sports cars. It's got no roof, no windscreen, neither is the Exocet. So that's the plan. And in the fullness of time, we're due, or at least I've booked exhibition stand space. I say I've booked exhibition stand space, it didn't cost me anything. I've booked a stand at the Replica and Self-Build show in Malvern in July 2026. And what I'm planning to do at that show is to take the yellow car at least, if not more, and a sample chassis and some bodywork, and encourage people who come to the kit car show or the Self-Build and Replica show to, if they're interested in building a car similar, if not the same as the V2, then I want to put a program together of maybe, I don't know, a handful of like-minded individuals who are keen to build a car, never done it before, don't want to do it on their own, and want to build as part of a group. So we'll probably kick off in late summer or early autumn. We'll meet on Zoom certainly once a month. I'd like to meet in person quarterly. And over the course of 12, 18 months, however long it takes, we'd build a series of kit cars. I'll be able to help them and supply them parts, chassis, suspension, at no serious markup. I'd be happy to do it at, a reasonable cost. If I was covering my costs and a bit of help towards the rent on the little factory I've got down here at the edge of the North York Moors, that's all I'm looking for, really. But I figured if I can build cars and learn something, it'd be nice to do it with a handful of people who are of a similar mind. It's just occurred to me, I'm talking to you lot, and there might be people out there who like the look of this car, want to build one, so by all means get in touch. So if you're interested in building a V2 at as an affordable rate as I can make it, I'm looking for a handful of people to build one alongside me, starting probably in this summer. You'll learn an awful lot more about the car, how it's put together, and how we build the first prototype to take to the show over the coming weeks. So you might want to reserve judgment, and I don't blame you. But that's the reason for buying this car and this concept, the project from Chris Greville-Smith, is that it's another way to learn. And one of the big attractions to me is it's a rear engine car. So Chris has designed a rear engine car that uses a front engine donor motor, in other words, a Ford EcoBoost motor, which is a transaxle, so it's turned sideways and used to drive the front wheels of a front wheel drive car. It's now in the back, turned sideways, driving the back wheels of a rear wheel drive car. In fact, is it mid-engine? I suppose it's halfway between rear engine and mid-engine, in that the engine's not truly over the back axle, nor is it between the back axle and the driver. But you'll see all of that in a minute and in future videos. We're only a couple of minutes away from the factory, so join me inside. Okay, here we are. You've joined me at the factory. I must first of all apologise for the shocking light in here. I've set up a light box, I think they call them, showing my naivety when it comes to all things filming, but hopefully it will shed a little bit of light so you can get an idea of what goes on. This is, as it says on the tin, really, it's just a small industrial unit that I've rented in the metropolis that is Helmsley in the centre of the North York Moors, but it's big enough for my needs, which are predominantly to build the V2. V2, which is the car designed by Chris Greville-Smith, soon to be renamed the Humble Nomad 1. So that's what we are here to do, or that's what we'll be doing here, over the next 6 months in the run-up to the show in July, which is at the National Showground, I think they call it, at Stoneleigh, Coventry Way. So this is a fully road registered, rear engine, 2-litre turbocharged, EcoBoost powered mental machine that weighs about 600 kilos. And that car came as part of the package when I bought the whole concept from Chris. In addition to that, this here is if I step back, you can perhaps see it a bit better. That's a sample chassis. So he's provided me with that as a guide to building the next chassis, whether that's for me or the guy that wants to buy one. And in this workshop, we will weld. That is a MIG welder. And over here we have TIG welders and arc welders and a plasma cutting torch and fettling machinery, sanders, wheels, drill press, and a lathe I got a few years ago, again cheap on eBay. Also bandsaw for cutting steel, which I got again cheap on Facebook Marketplace, I think that one. And over here I've started to collect bits of steel to build the next chassis with. So there's some pipe bent bars, pipe bent tubes. There's at the back there, I don't know if you can see it, there's the makings of the start of a roll bar, which will go on the next car. They're actually supported on and propped up really on a wheel stand, which came off an old trailer, which I'm going to put on wheels, and then I'll have a mobile wheel stand. This table here, the red one, I made that. Well, I say I made it, a friend of mine and I made it together. It was an old 4-post lift, which was here when I moved in and dismantled. If you're building kit cars, why did you dismantle a 4-post lift, I hear you ask? Good question. Well, because it was attached to the ground with little more than chewing gum, and it didn't have any of the locking brake systems that they have on the more modern ones, where if you're underneath it, the hydraulics fail, it doesn't fall on you. Let's just say it was not in its first flush of youth. On it currently are moulds for the side, the two you're looking at there are moulds for the side panels of this very car. So the grey side panels, the moulds for the engine cover at the back, the nose cone, etc., are actually in a friend of mine's stable down the road. So all I've done in here so far, apart from fill it full of stuff, is paint the floor, turn round the staircase, which used to run across the workshop floor and was in the way. So we've put it back up against the wall. Had it carpeted by a guy next door in the next unit, who very kindly did that for, I think you would describe it as mate's rates, given what he charged me. And if you go up those stairs, you'll see that on the balcony there, the mezzanine is a little office, which I intend to use for design work. So in an ideal world, what I'd like to do is to scan the cars and the chassis and the bodywork and convert them to AutoCAD files so that we have a digital record of the car and all the component parts. And then up there in a dust-free environment, I would hope to one day have things like 3D printers so that for things like, I don't know, this rear view mirror surround, or something a little better than this as a wind deflector, or mudguard stays, or whatever it happens to be. I think we could print some of the parts using the 3D printer. And to be fair, you can print these days in metal, so my research tells me. As I say, not enormous, but big enough for the task in hand when you consider that this is space that we've got in addition to the workshop at home, where most of the spannering will happen. Here will be fabrication and glass fibre work. Although I have found a glass fibre guy in Yorkshire who's going to take all these moulds away in a couple of weeks and do me a new set of bodywork, not in yellow this time, not in blue, because the blue car will come up to North Yorkshire and be based at home in the workshop. But there's a guy going to come and take away the bodywork moulds and do me an entire set of bodywork. He makes all sorts, from shower trays, wet rooms and God knows what, but he also specialises in the kind of sidecars, motorbike sidecar, fiberglass bodywork you see on the Isle of Man motorcycle and sidecar racing crews. I guess they fall off a lot and damage them a lot. So let me turn you around, see what I can do with the lighting and show you the inside of the small office. So this is it, nothing palatial, and there's no lighting in here either. You can see from the two pendants that are dangling waiting for the electrician. So not enormous. I'll back out and show you again. Not huge, but certainly a place where we can handle drawing work, as I say, a little bit of scanning, printing. That's the plan, and might even fill it with some automotive memorabilia. There's a couple of helmets on there already from when I come down here on the motorbike. Makes life easier, not in this current weather, I have to say. And then as you come out, the view from the top of the stairs, as we've talked about before, is like that. What you see is what you get. So that is the grand tour. Nothing more to be said really than I hope you've enjoyed that inaugural video of Humble Nomad Automotive. And following this shortly after, if not at the same time, will be a couple of videos which include the actual work that we'll be doing. And the first few are all based on the Exocet and starting to get to grips with how you put cars together. So if you'd like to join us on the journey, you would be more than welcome. Please like and subscribe, and I'll see you on the next one.